What if I told you that one of the toughest men on the planet once weighed nearly 300 pounds and made a living spraying for cockroaches? This is a man who once held the world record for pull-ups, completing 4,030 in 17 hours. He's the only member of the U.S. Armed Forces to ever complete Navy SEAL training, Army Ranger School, and Air Force Tactical Air Controller training. He has run more than 200 miles in a single go. His name is David Goggins. But this story isn't about the man he is today. It's about the man he had to kill to become him. It's the story of a man haunted by trauma, crippled by insecurity, and suffocating in a life he despised. This is how David Goggins went from a rock-bottom failure to a symbol of human potential by going to war with the only person who could ever truly stop him, himself. David Goggins' story doesn't start on a racecourse. It starts in a brutal childhood in Buffalo, New York. His early life was a nightmare, growing up under the thumb of a violent, abusive father. Fear and pain were normal, and trauma was a daily reality. This toxic world shaped a young boy filled with anxiety, crippling self-doubt, and a severe stutter. When his mother finally escaped with him, the hardship didn't stop. They were poor, and in a new town, Goggins became a target for relentless racism. As the only black kid in school, the prejudice he faced was a constant weight on his spirit. On top of that, he was fighting a secret war in his own mind. A severe learning disability made school feel impossible. He'd stare at books for hours, the words swimming in front of his eyes, unable to make any of it stick. He learned to cheat just to survive, creating a fragile image of a competent student that he knew was a lie. This insecurity followed him right into adulthood. He tried to join the Air Force, but failed the entrance exam, the ASVAB test, which only confirmed his deepest fear. He just wasn't smart enough. The dream of serving his country was gone, and he began to spiral. He found himself in his early 20s, working a soul-crushing job as a nighttime exterminator. His shift started at 11 p.m., spraying for cockroaches in filthy restaurants. Afterward, he'd come home to the only comfort he had, a box of donuts and a large chocolate milkshake. His weight shot up. At his heaviest, he was nearly 300 pounds. This was the old David Goggins, a man broken by his past, trapped in a body he didn't recognize, living a life he hated. He was haunted by his abusive father, bullies, and his own failures. He looked in the mirror and saw a joke, a man who was physically and mentally soft, living a shadow of a life. He had hit rock bottom, suffocating under the weight of his own choices. Failure wasn't just something that happened to him, it was his identity. One night, after another exhausting shift, Goggins collapsed on his couch and turned on the TV. He was flipping through channels when he stumbled on a documentary about the U.S. Navy SEALs. He watched, completely captivated, as these men were pushed to the absolute edge during Hell Week. They were cold, wet, and sleep-deprived, yet they just kept going. He saw men who were the exact opposite of what he saw in the mirror, physically powerful, mentally unbeatable, and living with purpose. In that moment, something snapped. It was a spark in the darkness. He saw a way out, a chance to kill the man he'd become and forge someone new. The idea was insane. A nearly 300-pound guy who'd already failed the military entrance exam. Recruiters would laugh him out of the room. But for the first time in years, Goggins had a mission. He started making calls the next day. The reactions were what you'd expect. Laughter, disbelief, and hard nose. Finally, one recruiter gave him a sliver of a chance. He said if Goggins could drop his weight to the 191-pound limit, he'd get him a shot. The catch? He had less than 3 months to lose over 100 pounds. For a man living on donuts and milkshakes, this was a death sentence, but it was also a lifeline. The war was on. Goggins threw out every piece of junk food in his house. He started waking up at 4:30 a.m. His first run was pathetic. He barely made it a quarter of a mile before his body screamed in protest, but he came back the next day, and the day after that. This is where Goggins created his first weapon, the accountability mirror. He taped his goal to it. Lose 106 pounds and become a Navy SEAL. Every day, he'd stand in front of that mirror, shave his head, and have a brutally honest talk with himself. He confronted the lazy, insecure person looking back at him. He owned his failures, his excuses, and his weaknesses. He wasn't running from the man in the mirror anymore. He was holding him accountable. The weight started coming off, but that was only half the battle. Still had to pass the ASVAB test. He spent his days in grueling physical training and his nights studying, still battling the learning disability that had haunted him for years. He failed the test again and then again. This time was different. The old Goggins would have quit. The new one refused. He went back, took the test a third time, and finally passed. He'd won the first battle. He lost 106 pounds in under 3 months and got his slot for SEAL training, but he was about to walk into a whole new level of hell. He arrived at basic underwater demolition SEAL training and was thrown into a world designed to break the strongest men. The peak of this suffering is Hell Week, 5.5 days of non-stop training with a maximum of 4 hours of sleep for the entire week. Goggins didn't just go through Hell Week once, he went through it 3 times in 1 year. The first time, he got pneumonia and had to quit. He recovered and was rolled back to the next class. He started Hell Week again, this time with a stress fracture in his leg. He pushed through the pain, but the injury got too severe and he was pulled from training again. This was the ultimate test. Broken, injured, and having failed twice at the one thing he wanted more than anything. Every rational thought told him to give up, but Goggins had learned to find fuel in his own pain. He began to callous his mind, deliberately seeking out suffering to build mental toughness. He refused to quit. He healed up and returned for a 3rd time. This time, he made it through. In 2001, a man who was once a 300-pound exterminator graduated with Bud S Class 235 and became a United States Navy SEAL. Graduating Navy SEAL wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. He was assigned to SEAL Team 5 and served in Iraq and Afghanistan. But even in the world of special operations, he kept looking for the hardest path. In 2004, he went to the grueling U.S. Army Ranger School and graduated as the Enlisted Honor Man, a top award for performance. His relentless drive soon found a new purpose. In 2005, a helicopter crash in Afghanistan during Operation Red Wings killed several of his SEAL comrades. Devastated, Goggins wanted to honor their sacrifice. He found the Special Operations Warrior Foundation, a charity giving college scholarships to the children of fallen special ops soldiers. To raise money, he needed a challenge so ridiculous it would get people's attention. He found it in ultramarathons. With almost no training, he entered the San Diego One Day, a 100-mile race. He finished it in under 19 hours, breaking bones in his feet and suffering kidney failure. It was brutal, but it lit a new fire. He went on to compete in over 70 endurance races, including the infamous Badwater 135, a 135-mile race through Death Valley in summer, where temperatures can hit 130 degrees. He placed in the top 5. Stunning achievement. These weren't just races, they were labs for his mind. He continued to push limits. In 2013, he decided to break the world record for pull-ups in 24 hours. His first attempt failed. His hands were shredded, but like Hell Week, failure was just information. 5 months later, he was back. He completed 4,030 pull-ups in 17 hours, claiming the world record and raising more money for the foundation. From this lifetime of suffering, Goggins developed his philosophy. The most famous is the 40% rule. He believes that when your mind is screaming at you to stop, you're only at 40% of what you're truly capable of. Your brain is wired for comfort, and it will always try to quit long before your body has to. He also teaches that motivation is garbage. It's a fleeting feeling. Discipline is what carries you when motivation is gone. It's doing what you have to do, day after day, whether you feel like it or not. Most importantly, he learned to use suffering as a tool. While most people run from discomfort, Goggins runs toward it. He understood that calluses don't just form on your hands, they form on your mind. By intentionally putting himself through hell, he was building an unbreakable will. His journey is far from over. In August of 2025, after a 5-year break from racing, he returned for the Bigfoot 200. A brutal 200-mile foot race through the Cascade Mountains. He finished in just over 66 hours, placing 23rd overall. It was another testament to his belief: you are never finished. The story of David Goggins is a raw testament to the power of the human will. It proves it doesn't matter where you start. What matters is that you decide to fight back. Check out his books, Can't Hurt Me, Never Finished, for the full, unfiltered story from the man himself.